Hello everybody, my name is the Reaper33 and welcome to my second podcast. I did a first one like last year, then I gave up on it because I got tired. And now I'm back, but this time I have my lovely friend here. Okay. Okay, so today we'll be going over the first story in the Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights books, Into the Pit. So, I'm not going to read through the entire story. We're going to give a baseline of events. I got it right here in my hand. And we're going to see my friend's reaction to it. The paper is turning. Oh, yes. The
children have the book.
Just licking my fingers in front of the page. Turn the page.
Turn the... Mom.
Okay. So, our main character is Oswald.
Oh, that's a likely name, huh?
And the first thing he says is the dead possum's still there. That's how we begin the story. So they start driving through town. It appears that the town is pretty abandoned. Boarded up storefronts, display windows that had nothing but dust in them. And, they're heading down past... they're heading downtown is what I meant to say. His father works at a place called the Snack Space, which could become important in later books, because it may be mentioned in other books. It's unknown. And then Oswald says, this town looks deader than a dead possum.
I hope so.
And then his dad says, well, I don't guess I can argue with that.
Alright. Very hopeful.
So apparently 3 years ago there used to be a bunch of families and other people who lived in town, but the mill that was running the town and such closed down. So when that happened, everybody moved out of town.
No more child labor.
No.
Government said no thanks, bro.
Government has recommended you to step back. So Oswald has some bullies and such. He has one bully in this story, Dylan Cooper.
Dylan.
And he calls him Oswald the Ocelot.
Huh.
Yeah, he's been doing it since preschool.
That's like the best Minecraft mob, though.
Yeah, Oswald the Ocelot.
He must be fast.
Very fast. And he also finds it, very coincidental, because in 5th grade he ends up saying that in U.S. history he learns that the person who had assassinated John F. Kennedy was Lee Harvey Oswald. So the bullying got worse. Kids these days.
Blaming assassinations on children who weren't even born during the assassination.
I know, right?
Amateurs.
Now, it's not confirmed where all the stories happen, but this one specifically says he didn't have any modern electronics. So he had a laptop, and he had a phone, but it was a sad, out-of-date one.
Bruh.
This is happening in modern times.
Imagine.
So, this is where it starts to get a little bit weird. He didn't know why, but lately he had been drawing mechanical animals, bears, bunnies, and birds. He imagined them being human-sized and moving with the jerkiness of robots in an old science fiction movie. They were furry on the outside, but the fur covered a hard metal skeleton filled with gears and circuits. Sometimes he drew the animals' exposed metal skeletons, or sketched them with fur peeled back to show some of the mechanical workings underneath. It was a creepy effect, like seeing a person's skull peeking out from beneath the skin.
Huh. What could that possibly be?
I wonder what that could...
I don't know exactly. Something robotic, perhaps.
And then Oswald gets all jealous and stuff, because his best friend Ben moved away after the mill closed. So he has nothing to do during the summertime. And unfortunately, his mom is working pretty much all day, so that leaves his dad with him. And then he also has a cat, who will become slightly important later. And her name is Jinx.
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 That's quite the name.
Jinx.
Jinx. Quite the name indeed. So, as it continues on, his father makes him mac and cheese at the end of the day.
I'm gonna make some fucking mac and cheese.
And
nobody can stop me.
Okay, so Oswald loves to go down to a place called Jeff's Pizza.
Oh, I bet he would love that.
The pizza was decent there, he ends up saying. And so Jeff's Pizza's downtown. It's kind of run down like every other place, you know. Oswald ends up saying, "So you'll give me money for the pizza?" Oswald asked. Since Dad's job loss, Oswald's allowance had dwindled to practically nothing. Dad smiled, a kind of sad smile, seemed to Oswald. "Son, we're bad off. But we're not so bad off I can't spot you $3.50 for a slice and a soda." "Alright!" That's not what he said. He's like, "Okay."
Okay.
Okay.
Pizza time. Pizza time.
Pizza time. Okay. He ends up going on about old Japanese monster movies, something like Zandrillix versus Mecha Zandrillix.
It's Godzilla!
Gotcha!
Godzilla!
So yeah, he loves old Japanese monster movies, things like that. He wakes up the next morning after he goes to bed, wishing that something interesting to happen. But because this is a Fazbear Frights book, and this is only the first story, out of like the hundreds more to come, something interesting will always happen. I mean, it has Scott Cawthon's name on the title. That must mean something. He wakes up and then his mom's like, "Oh, well, look at that. My rising 6th grader has risen. She has, her fuzzy pink bathrobe on and her blonde hair and a
Oh my god, her
ponytail."
name's Barbara. Her name is Barbara, 100%.
Barbara. So, he knows that his mom misses him and stuff, but she has to pay the bills and such, you know, which is the problem. And she ends up going, "Oh, I know, it's a bummer, but hey, maybe make a new friend. Maybe they'll move into town." And Oswald's like, "Why would anybody move here?" "Okay, see your point," Mom said, piling on another pancake. "But you never know. Or maybe somebody cool already lives here. Somebody you don't even know yet."
I don't know.
I know a guy who lives in the pit.
The pancake thing, I just imagine that scene from Wreck-It Ralph. Pancake.
Pancake.
The thing explodes.
See, this is already going great. So he ends up going to the library every day,
Library.
followed by Jeff's Pizza.
Berry.
So, we finally get a description of Jeff's Pizza. Jeff's Pizza was as weird as he remembered. The big empty space beyond the booths and tables was like a dance floor where nobody danced. The walls were painted a pale yellow, and they must have used cheap paint or only one coat because shapes of whatever had been on the walls before were still visible. There probably had been some kind of mural of people or animals, but now it's just shadows behind a thin veil of yellow paint. Sorry, I was thinking purple guy. Oswald sometimes tried to figure out what the shapes were, but they were too blobby to make out. Then there was the stage that never got used, standing empty but seemingly waiting for something. There was a feature, even weirder than the stage, lay in the back right corner. It was a large, rectangular pen surrounded by yellow netting. It had been roped off of a sign that said, "Do not use."
Bro, it's just the chicken pen. The chickens.
The chickens. The pen itself was filled with red, blue, and green plastic balls that had probably been brightly colored once, but were now faded and fuzzy with dust.
Fuzzy balls.
Don't take that out of context.
What do you mean? I wasn't taking it out of context. You were taking it out of context.
Oh god, I was. Oswald knew that ball pits had been largely popular features in kiddie playlands, but had disappeared because of concerns about hygiene. After all, who was going to disinfect all those balls?
Oh. Yeah, exactly. Who was gonna... Oh my god.
Oswald had no doubt that if ball pits had still been popular when he was little, his mom wouldn't have let him play in one. As a licensed practical nurse, she was always happy to point out places she found to be too germy to play in. And when Oswald would complain that she would never let him have any fun, she'd say, "You know what's not fun? Pink eye."
No. You know what's fun? Duh.
So the strangest feature in Jeff's Pizza is Jeff himself. He seemed to be the only person who worked there, so he took both the orders at the counter and made the pizzas. But the place was never crowded enough. That was his problem. Today, like all the other days, Jeff looked as if he hadn't slept in a week. His dark hair was sticking up in weird places. He had alarming bags under his bloodshot eyes. His apron was stained with both recent and ancient tomato sauce. "What can I get you?" Yes, Oswald sounded bored.
I get you?
"A cheese slice and an orange soda, please," Oswald said. Jeff stared off into the distance as though he had to not think about whether the request was a reasonable one or not.
A cheese slice.
Finally said, okay, $3.50. So, Oswald ends up having a lovely short dinner there. And then during his time of just sitting there and eating, all of a sudden Jeff comes up and he's like, I got a couple more cheese slices that didn't sell at lunch. You want them?
Kid, you want a cheese slice?
Get in the van, I won't ask twice.
Oh no, whoa. Rose the Red, you want a cheese slice? Get in the van, I want to ask.
So, of course, I'll just like, yes, I will gladly take a free cheese slice.
Oh.
And it ends up being 2 free
Whoa.
pieces of cheese.
When you get an extra nugget in your...
And a fresh cup of orange soda.
Bruh.
He's eating well here. And then his phone vibrates and his father's like, we'll be out in front of Jeff's in 2 minutes. So it appears to just go on that for like a few weeks. Library, Jeff's. Library, Jeff's. And it continues and it continues. And he ends up getting into a small fight with his father about CGI versus, puppets and stuff from the old days. Then, one day, while Oswald's sketching his mechanical animals, Ben ends up texting him.
Oh.
And Ben's like, I'm at Myrtle Beach for vacation, arcade, mini golf.
Beach.
And then Oswald's like, yeah, I'm stuck here still. And then Ben's like, oh, that pizza place is creepy.
You wanna join?
Foreshadowing. The ball pit has enough room for 2 people.
Oh no.
Just stay 5 feet apart. That's totally not gay.
2 bros chilling up all there, 5 feet apart because they're not gay.
Okay, then this is where Oswald begins to get angry at his father and stuff. Okay, here we go. Your mom and I talked a lot about it, but we decided not to move, especially if your grandma living here and needing help sometimes. This is our home, kiddo, and things aren't perfect, but we just have to make the best of them. Oswald felt himself crossing the line from grumbling into growling territory. But why did some people get the best of everything and others had to settle for free library visits and cheap pizza? And so every day you toss me out on the street like garbage. If this is the best of things, I'd hate to see the worst. Now, son, don't you think that's a little dramatic? Oswald didn't stick around to hear the rest of his dad's criticism. He got out of the car and slammed the door. His dad sped away, probably glad to get rid of him. Just as he predicted, the library still didn't have the book he wanted. And yeah, at lunchtime he goes back to Jeff's Pizza. And then he gets an idea to hide from his dad.
Uh-oh.
And there was one perfect place to hide.
Oh.
Oswald was going into the pit.
I must admit, screw you.
Just Oswald sticking to the both middle fingers. Okay, the pit was pretty gross, really. Obviously untouched for years, the plastic spheres were covered in a great fuzzy dust. But hiding there would be a great prank on his dad who was always dropping him off and picking him up like somebody's dry cleaning.
Get pranked, bro.
Would actually have to get out of the car and make an effort for a change. Oswald wouldn't make it easy for him either. He's not coming out without a fight. So, he took off his shoes, and he climbs into it. Yeah.
Why did he take off his shoes?
That's a good question. Some of the balls were strangely sticky, but he tried not to think about why.
Huh. I wouldn't either.
He took a deep breath. If he were about to jump into a swimming pool and fell to his knees, that put him up to his neck. Wiggling around so he was sitting on the pit's floor to put his head under too. The balls spread apart far enough so that he could breathe, but it was dark and made him feel claustrophobic. The place stank of dust and mildew. Pink eye, you could hear his mother's voice saying, "You're gonna get pink eye." The smell was really getting to him. The dust tickled his nose. He felt a sneeze coming on, but he couldn't move his hand to the fears fast enough to reach his nose and muffle it. He sneezed 3 times, each one louder than before. It's like an echo effect. Achoo. Achoo woo woo woo. Achoo woo woo.
Oh, Bob.
Exactly. And then, as he rose up, his ears were assaulted by the sound of beeping electronics and yelling and laughing.
Alarm clock.
It took a few seconds for his eyes to adjust from the darkness of the pit to the brightness that now surrounded him, the flashing lights and vivid colors. He looked around and muttered, "Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore." The walls were lined with shiny arcade cabinets, housing games he heard his dad talk about from his own childhood. Miss Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Frogger, Cuber, Galaga. A neon-lighted claw machine displayed plush blue elf-like creatures and orange cartoon cats. He looked down at the pit and realized he was surrounded by little kids wallowing in the strangely clean and now brightly colored plastic orbs. He stood over the preschoolers like a giant. He stepped out of the pit to find his shoes, but they were gone. Interesting.
Go back. I want to go back.
Go back now. Everyone's hair was stout and fluffy, and the boys wore polo shirts in colors lots of guys would be caught dead in, like pink or aqua. The girls' hair was almost unbelievably big, with bangs that stood out from their foreheads like claws.
Oh my god.
They were pastel-colored tops that matched with pastel-colored shoes. The colors, the lights, the sound, it was sensory overload. And what was that music?
The music.
Oswald looked around to see where it was coming from. Across the room on a small stage, a trio of animatronic animals blinked their big black eyes, opened and closed their mouths, and pivoted back and forth in sync with a jangly, annoying song. There was a brown bear, a blue rabbit with a red bow tie, and some kind of bird girl.
Some kind of bird girl?
Yeah.
That's a really bad superhero. Bird girl. Can't fly. Eat seeds all day.
They reminded Oswald of the mechanical animals he thought he'd caught himself drawing lately. The difference was that he could never decide if the animals in his drawings were cute or creepy. These are creepy! Strangely though, the dozen or so little kids surrounding the stage didn't seem to think so. So, he wasn't Jeff's Pizza, or more accurately, what had been Jeff's Pizza before Jeff had taken over. You gotta imagine, you're just walking out of the pit and you see this. So he goes looking around, and he sees on the walls, he sees the paintings of a bear, a bunny, and a bird girl. And the words above it read, "Freddy fuck Bear's Pizza."
Oh my god.
Oswald.
Inhale dong enragement child.
Oswald's insides turned to ice water. How had this happened? He knew where he was, but he didn't know when it was or how he got here. And somebody bumped into him. Yeah. "Sorry, dude," the kid said. He was about Oswald's age, and he was wearing a light yellow polo with a collar turned up, tucked into what looked like a pair of dad jeans. He's like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, sure."
Sure,
Oswald
man.
said. He wasn't sure he was okay, actually, but he didn't know how to begin to explain the situation.
Oh man, this ball pit's crazy.
Bro, I'm tripping balls. Literally. "I've not seen you here before," the kid said. "Yeah," Oswald said. "I'm just visiting here, staying with my grandma for a few weeks."
I'm from Canada.
This place is great, though. All these old games. Old games? The kid raising
Oh,
eyebrow
god.
said. "You're joking, right? I don't know where you're from, but Freddy's has the newest games around here. That's why the lines to play them are so long." Oh yeah! I was just kidding. And then he's just like, "I'm Chip." Me and my buddy Mike. He nodded at a tall black kid wearing huge eyeglasses and a shirt with wide red and blue stripes.
"Hey, the name's Chip." My buddy Mike's over here.
"We're about to play some skee ball." Wanna come?
God.
Sure.
We gotta do some shuffleboarding.
"You got a name?" Mike said, looking at Oswald like he was some strange specimen. Oh wait, it's Mike. "You got a name?" That's better. "Oh, sure. I'm Oswald."
Oh, sure.
"Well, I gotta warn you, Oswald. I'm the best at C-ball. But I'll go easy on you since you're new here." "Thanks for having mercy on me," Oswald said. So, Mike wasn't lying. He's a beast at skee-ball. And he easily beats Chip and Oswald 3 times, but he's being a good sport. And you know, then Oswald's like, "Oh, wait, I have to go back." And then he's like, "Hey guys, I better run," Oswald said. My grandma, he almost said, just texted me, but realized Chip and Mike would have no idea what he was talking about. Whenever this was, there were no cell phones. My grandma's supposed to pick me up in a few minutes. Okay, dude, maybe we'll catch you later, Chip said, and Mike gave a little nod and wave. Oswald left his companions, and he went towards the door. And he was feeling some kind of mixed up Cinderella. So, then all of a sudden it dawned on him. He would go to the ball pit again. So he sank beneath the surface.
How about no?
Sank beneath the stores. And then he was like, how long to stay under? Randomly decided to count to 100 and stand.
Bruh.
He rose to his feet and found himself standing in the dusty, roped-off ball pit at Jeff's Pizza. He climbed out, found his shoes right where he left them. His phone vibrated in his pocket, took it out and read, "We'll be there in 2 minutes." Had no time passed at all? He headed out the door and Jeff called, "See you, kid," behind him. What do you think of that? Sus.
Kind of. Wow.
So then he ends up being in a good mood because all of a sudden, he's got friends.
Wow.
So yeah, he ends back into the pit the next day. And then he looks inside one of the open offices and finds that the date is 1985. Hey, it's Oswald! Chip was wearing a baby blue polo with his dad's jeans and giant sneakers this time. A lot of hair on his head was out of place. Hey, Oz, Mike said. He was wearing a Back to the Future t-shirt. Anybody ever call you that, like the Wizard of Oz? They do now, Oz said, grinning. I like how the book automatically corrects Oswald to Oz instead. They put some detail into this. So they end up going, oh, you know, we ordered some pizza. They're gonna have some delicious pizza together. And then the young woman with big blonde hair and blue eyeshadow served them pizza, and the animatronic band is playing in the background. And then they even start commenting on the fact that the robots are creepy and stuff. So, what's interesting is that as they're eating, in the corner is a yellow rabbit suit, standing as still as a statue, staring at him.
Huh. Does anybody else see that?
It doesn't appear so, because he doesn't mention it to either of them.
Why would you not mention it to either of them?
Because when they start to run out of tokens, Oswald says, "Thank you for sharing," and then heads back into the pit and heads home. He turns it into a regular thing, though. So each and every day he goes to the pit, and then each and every day he goes to see them. You know, he's a lonely kid. He could be hallucinating. Who knows? He could just knock himself out every time he jumps into the pit. We don't know the loss of this. We don't know if this is all just one big hallucination. FNAF's confusing,
Something in
man.
that dust, man.
So they end up talking about movies and such, and then Chip goes, "Name one movie you've seen that you really like." I'm trying to figure out what your taste is. Oswald's mind went blank. What was a movie from the 80s? E.T.? E.T.? Mike slapped the table laughing. E.T. was like 3 years ago. You really do need to get out more. Do they not have movie theaters where you're from? They do, Oswald thought. And they have Netflix and PlayStation and YouTube and social media. But he didn't say it.
Yeah.
Of course there was technology Chip and Mike talked about that he only heard the vaguest knowledge of, like VCRs and boom boxes and cassette tapes.
No.
And he had to constantly remind himself to not talk about things like cell phones and tablets and the internet. He tried to wear t-shirts with characters and references that might confuse them or other customers at the 1985 Freddy Fazbear's. Yeah, we definitely need to bring you up to date, Chip said.
Oh, okay.
If only you knew, Oswald thought.
Exactly.
Hey, do you want to, like, go play some games? I feel the skee ball calling me, but I promise I'll go easy
You
on
got
you
any
guys.
games on your phone?
No, you won't. You'll murder us, Chip laughed. You guys go ahead. I think I'll just sit at the table. What, and watch the show? Mike said, nodding in the direction of the creepy characters on stage. Is something wrong? If you suddenly decide to like Freddy Fazbear's music, we need to get you help fast. No, nothing's wrong, Oswald said, but really, something was. For his first few visits to the 1985 Freddy Fazbear, it hadn't even occurred to him that he was basically mooching off of Chip and Mike's generosity. Because he never had any money of his own. And even if he wasn't broke in his own time zone, would the money he brought from the present day even work in 1985? It was kind of pitiful, being broke in 2 decades.
Oh my god.
Get roasted. I just feel like I'm always taking your money because I never have any. Hey dude, it's cool, Chip said. We haven't even noticed. Yeah, Mike said. We just figured your grandma never gave you any money. I know my grandma doesn't, except when it's my birthday. They were being really nice, but Oswald still felt embarrassed. How about I just go hang out while you play, Oswald said. And then he stood up, and all of a sudden, he feels a strange heaviness in his pockets. Something in them was so heavy, he felt like his jeans might fall down.
Here comes the money! Money
His
talk.
pockets and pulled out double handfuls of 1985 Freddy Fazbear's game tokens.
Here comes the money!
Or we could play using all of these.
Money, 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 money.
He had no idea how to explain the magic that had just occurred. I guess I forgot I was wearing hats. The ones that had all the tokens in them. Chip and Mike looked a little confused, but then they grinned and started raking coins from the table into the empty soda cans. And then also did the same. He didn't know how the tokens got there, but then again, he didn't really know how he got there either. Fair point. And so in the morning, he ends up asking his dad on the drive, how old were you in 1985? He's like, oh, just a couple years older than you. He likes the arcade. And then Oswald goes, I've just been doing some research. Jeff's Pizza, back before it was Jeff's Pizza. It was some kind of arcade, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Dad's voice sounded strange. Nervous, maybe. He was quiet for a few seconds and said, but it closed. Like everything else in this town, Oswald said. Pretty much, yeah, Dad said, pulling up in front of the library. Maybe it was Oswald's imagination, but it seemed like his dad was relieved to get to their destination so he wouldn't have to answer any more of his questions. Like always, he arrives at Jeff's Pizza, then he goes into the pit. But when he rises out of the pit, the sounds of the usual Freddy Fazbears they're gone. There's screams, crying children,
Time to leave.
yells for help, the fast footfalls of people, running, chaos. Were Chip and Mike here? Were they okay? Was anybody here okay? He was afraid. Part of him wanted to disappear back into the pit. As he should!
Yeah.
But he was worried about his friends. Also, he had a burning curiosity.
Okay.
He wasn't in danger, he told himself, because this was the past, a time way before he was born. His life couldn't be in danger in a time before he even existed. Could it? His stomach in knots, he moved through the crowd, past crying mothers running with their toddlers in their arms, past dads grasping children's hands and leading them swiftly toward the exit, their faces masked of shock. Chip? Mike? He called, but his friends were nowhere to be seen. Maybe they hadn't come to Freddy Fazbear's today. Maybe they were safe. And then he walks in the opposite direction from everyone, and in front of him stands a man in a yellow bunny costume. If there was a man under there. The bunny opened a door that said private and went inside. Oswald followed.
Why would you follow the man in the freaking furry costume?
The corridor was long and dark. The rabbit looked at him with blank eyes and an unchanging grin, then walked farther down the hall. So Oswald feels like it's Alice in Wonderland, him chasing the rabbit down the hall.
Yeah.
And he leads into a sign labeled party room.
Oh yeah, party room.
And he holds the door open for him, and he walks in. And then Oswald follows. On the walls, painted the grinning bear, the blue bunny, and of course, the bird girl.
Oh, the bird girl.
And half a dozen kids, none of them older than Oswald, their legs stretched out in front of them, were pinned up against the wall. Some of them had their eyes closed, as if they were asleep. Others' eyes were open, frozen in an empty, doll-like stare. They were all wearing Freddy Fazbear birthday party hats. Oswald couldn't tell how they had died, but he knew the rabbit was responsible for it. That the rabbit wanted him to see his handiwork. Maybe the rabbit wanted Oswald to be his next victim, to join the others lined up against the wall with their unseeing eyes. Oswald screamed, and the yellow rabbit lunged for him, and he ran out of the room, and down the black corridor. Maybe the rabbit couldn't hurt him. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he could. Oswald didn't want to hang around long enough to find out. He ran across the now empty arcade toward the ball pit. Outside, the police siren screams matched Oswald's own. The rabbit ran after him, getting so close that that fuzzy paw brushed Oswald's back. Oswald dove into the pit.
Gas, gas, gas. Gotta step on the gas.
Exactly. He counted to 100 as fast as he could. When he stood, the first thing he heard was Jeff's voice. There's the little stinker! Oswald turned to see his dad stomping toward him while Jeff looked on. Dad looked furious, and Jeff didn't look happy either. Not that he ever did. Oswald stood frozen, too overwhelmed to move. His dad grabbed his arm and pulled him out of the pit. What were you thinking, hiding in that old nasty old thing? Didn't you hear me calling you? After Oswald was out, his dad leaned over the pit. Look how dirty it is! Your mother! A pair of yellow arms reached out of the pit and pulled Dad under. The struggle would have been cartoonish if it hadn't been so terrifying. Dad's feet in their brown work boots kicked up to the surface only to disappear below. Then a pair of big, fuzzy yellow feet appeared, only to disappear too. The balls in the pit roiled like a stormy sea, and then they were still. The yellow rabbit rose from the pit, adjusted his purple bow tie, brushed off his front, and turned to Oswald grinning. Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Oswald backed away, but the rabbit was beside him, its arm firmly around Oswald's shoulders, guiding him toward the exit.
Are you winning, son?
Oswald looked at Jeff, who stood behind the counter. Maybe Jeff would help him, but Jeff wore the same hangdog expression he always wore and just said, "See you later, guys."
Okay.
How could Jeff, how could anyone, act like this situation was normal? Once the rabbit got him outside, it opened the passenger door of Dad's car and pushed Oswald in. Oswald watched the bunny buckle its seatbelt, started the car. He tried to open the door, but the bunny had activated the power lock from the driver's side. The bunny's mouth was frozen in a rictus grin. Its eyes stared blankly. Oswald pushed the unlock button again, even though he knew it wouldn't work. Wait, Oswald said. Can you do any of this? Can you even drive a car? The bunny said nothing, but started the car and pulled it out into the street. It stopped at a red light, so Oswald figured it must be able to see. It must know how to the basic rules of driving. What did you do to my dad? Where are you taking me? Oswald could hear the panic in his voice. He wanted to sound strong and brave, like he was standing up for himself, but instead he was just sounded scared and confused. Which he was. The bunny said nothing. And then it made a familiar right turn, and a left into Oswald's neighborhood. How do you know where I live? Oswald demanded. Still silent, the bunny turned into the driveway, in front of Oswald's ranched-out house. I'll run for it, Oswald thought. As soon as this thing unlocks the car door, I'll run to the neighbor's house and call the police once I'm safely inside. The lock clicked, and Oswald jumped out of the car. Somehow the bunny was standing right in front of him and grabbed his arm. He tried to break free, but its grip was too strong. The bunny dragged Oswald to the front door, then yanked off the chain around Oswald's neck that held his house key. The rabbit turned the key in the door and shoved Oswald inside. Then it stood in front of the door, blocking the exit. Jinx the cat wandered into the living room, took one look at the rabbit, arched her back, puffed her tail, and hissed like a cat on a Halloween decoration. Oswald had never seen her act scared or unfriendly before, and he watched as she turned tail and fled down the hall. If Jinx's situation is bad, it must be really bad. You can't do this, Oswald said to the rabbit in tears. He didn't want to cry. He wanted to look strong, but he couldn't help it. This is kidnapping, or something. My mom will be home.
Or something.
They should call the police. It was a total bluff, of course. Mom wouldn't be home until after midnight. Would he even be alive by the time Mom got home? Was his dad even alive now? He knew the bunny would grab him if he tried to make a run for the back door. I'm going to my room now, okay? I'm not trying to escape. I'm just going to my room. He backed away, and the bunny let him. As soon as he got inside his room, he slammed the door and locked it. He took deep breaths and tried to think. There was a window in his room, but it was high, too small to climb through. Under his bed, Jinx let out a low growl. Oswald could hear the bunny outside his door. If he made a phone call, it would hear him, but maybe he could send a text. He took out his phone, and with shaky hands texted, Mom, emergency, something's wrong with Dad, come home now. And so, a miserable hour passes in his room, and then the phone vibrates, and he picks it up. Oswald, what's going on? Mom sounded terrified. Do I need to call 911?
Yes.
I can't talk now, Oswald whispered. I'm on my way home, okay? She hung up. 15 minutes seemed to pass, slowly, more than Oswald thought was possible. Then there was a knock on Oswald's door. Oswald jumped, his heart in his throat. Who is it? It's me, Mom said, it sounded exasperated. Open the door. He opened the door just a crack to make sure it was really her. Once he let her in, he closed and locked the door behind them. Oswald, you need to tell me what's going on. Where to start, how to explain without sounding crazy. It's Dad, he's not okay, I'm not even sure where he is. Mom put her hands on both his shoulders. Oswald, I just saw your dad. He's lying on the bed in our bedroom, watching TV. I made you chicken pot pie for dinner. It's sitting on the stove. What?
Huh?
I'm not hungry. He tried to wrap that around his mind. You saw Dad? Mom nodded. And he's okay? She nodded again. He's okay, but I'm worried about you. She put her hand on his forehead as if checking for a fever. I'm okay, Oswald said. I mean, if Dad's okay, I'm okay. He just didn't seem okay. Maybe it's good school starting back. I think you're spending too much time by yourself. What could he say? Actually, I've been spending time with my new friends in 1985? Maybe so. I probably should just go on to bed. I have to get an early start in the morning. I think that's a good idea, Mom said. She put her hands on his cheeks, looked him directly in the eyes, and listened. If you're going to text me at work, make sure it's a real emergency. You scared me. I thought it was a real emergency. I'm sorry. It's alright, honey. Get some rest, okay? Okay. So yeah. Then Oswald's like, it's okay, Mom said it's safe, you can come out now to Jinx. And Jinx did not budge at all.
Uh-oh.
So, he wakes up the next day, and then of course it's his mom in the fuzzy pink back robe, as always, with the ponytail, making him breakfast. And then the yellow thing walked in and sat across from him at the breakfast table. Mom? Oswald's heart beat like a jackhammer in his chest. The ham biscuit sat heavy in his churning stomach. What is it, hon? Her back was turned as she fiddled with the coffee maker. Where's Dad? She turned around, the coffee pot in her hand. Oswald, your dad is sitting right across from you. If this is some kind of elaborate prank, you can cut it out right now because it has officially stopped being funny. She poured a cup of coffee and set it down in front of the yellow thing, which stared straight ahead, its mouth set in an unchanging grin. Oswald knew he wasn't getting anywhere. Either he was insane, or his mom was. Okay, I understand. I'll cut it out. I apologize. Maybe excuse so I can get ready for school. Of course, Mom said, but she was looking at him kind of funny again. So Oswald goes into his bedroom, brushes his teeth and stuff, and Jinx is still hiding in the bedroom underneath the bed.
Oh my god.
And he goes, well, it's good to know there's somebody else in this family who has some sense. And then he goes to the door. Once he's all ready, he's like, is, Dad taking me to school? Doesn't he always, Mom said. You could hear the worry in her voice. Have a good day, okay? Seeing no choice, Oswald got in the car beside the yellow thing. Once again, it locked all the doors from the driver's side. It backed out of the driveway and past a jogging neighbor who waved at it as just if it was her dad. I don't understand, Oswald said, on the edge of tears. Are you real? Is this real? Am I going crazy? The yellow thing said nothing, just stared at the road ahead. When it pulled up in front of Westwick Middle School, the crossing guard and the kids at the crosswalk didn't seem to notice that the car was being driven by a giant yellow rabbit. Hey, don't bother picking me up this afternoon, I'll just catch the bus, Oswald said. The school bus was a big yellow thing that he could handle. Because it was some kind of cosmic law, the first person Oswald saw in the hall was Dylan, the tormentor. Well, if it isn't Oswald the... Give it a rest, Dylan, Oswald said, pushing past him. I've got way bigger problems than you do. And of course, you can't concentrate in class at all. I mean, there's a yellow rabbit living at home.
Death rabbit.
There's a yellow death rabbit living at home. That's not normal. And so he ends up meeting a girl who asks to sit on the bench with him. She has curly black hair and big brown eyes. That's holding a thick book. And the girl asks him, have you gone to the school for a long time? And he goes, yeah, since kindergarten. What are you reading? Greek mythology, she said. Tales of heroes. Have you read much mythology? No, not really. I love to read, though. Me too. I've been reading this book a dozen times. It's like a comfort to me. I read it when I need to feel brave. The word brave struck a chord in Oswald. Brave was what he needed to be.
Brave.
Why is that? Well, the Greek heroes were super brave. They're always doing battle with some kind of big monster, like the Minotaur or the Hydra. It kind of puts things in perspective, you know? No matter how bad my problems are, at least I don't have to do battle with a monster.
That's a matter of perspective.
Yeah, Oswald said, even though he was trying to figure out how to do battle with the monster. A yellow, long-eared monster in his own home. Of course, he couldn't tell her about it. There's no way we would believe him. So, then he starts to get the idea to be brave. So, He knew that the yellow thing was always going to catch him, no matter how far he ran away or where he went, which means that he was going to probably have to outsmart it. He was going to have to outsmart a gigantic rabbit. Ends up making him pizza for dinner, actually.
Oh.
And sits across from him. And Oswald's, of course, eating. He's like, "Aren't you going to eat anything, Dad?" he asked. It was hard calling the thing Dad. Managed. The other thing sat across from him in silence, with its unblinking stare and frozen grin, an untouched pizza slice on a plate in front of it, beside an untouched glass of punch. Could it even eat? Oswald wondered. Did it need to? What was it anyway? At first he thought it was a guy in a suit, but now he wasn't so sure. Was it some kind of highly sophisticated animatronic animal, or a real flesh and blood giant bunny?
It's a rat. It's a motherfucking rat.
It's a rat.
I'll whoop your ass.
So, he knows what he's going to have to do. He has to sneak out of the house and get to that ball pit.
Okay, that's not quite what it is. Kill the rat, ball pit. Oh yeah.
So Oswald waits until dark, and he grabs his shoes, tips out of the room, and then he glances into the room where his parents sleep. The yellow thing was lying on its back, on his parents' bed. It appeared to be staring at the ceiling. Or maybe it wasn't staring, maybe it was asleep. It was hard to tell since its eyes didn't close. Did it even need to sleep?
No. It's safe to be assured, no.
If the yellow thing always caught him, he could always complain that he was getting a drink of water as he was sneaking through the kitchen, was what he was thinking. So he sneaks through, he opens the door, just a little bit. He slides through the crack, slowly closes it, and then he ran. He ran through the neighborhoods. The past neighbors walking the dogs, the kids riding their bicycles. Some people looked at Oswald struggling, and he couldn't figure out why. People ran in his neighborhood all the time. Then he realized he wasn't running like he was doing it for exercise. He was running like something was chasing him. And it might be. It was a long way to just pizza on foot, and Oswald knew he couldn't keep this pace all the way. He slowed to a walk after he was out of his neighborhood and chose to walk side streets instead of a more direct route, so he'd be harder to follow.
And a lot easier to catch.
And eventually, he reaches there. "You know, we just serve whole pizzas at night, no slices," Jeff said in his usual monotone. As always, he looked exhausted. Oswald walked in. "Yeah, I just stopped by to get soda to go," Oswald said, his gaze roaming to the roped-off ball pit. "Enemy spotted." Jeff looked a little puzzled, but finally said, "Okay, let me get a pie out of the oven, and then I'll get it for you. Orange, right?" "Right, thanks." As soon as Jeff disappeared into the kitchen, Oswald ran to the back corner and dove into the pit. Just imagine him just doing a swan dive.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that.
And then, as he's feeling around there, he feels a shoe, and then a boot, a leg. It's his father. So, he begins to pull him up, using the kind of strength, thinking about being brave like all those Greek heroes, and tugging him out. He pulled a force, a grunt, and a roar. And then he finally pulled him to the surface, and he's pale and unconscious, but he's breathing. He's definitely breathing.
Oh, definitely.
And they're still in Jeff's Pizza, surprisingly, and not Freddy Fazbear's.
Oh.
Huh.
Huh. Okay.
He wanted to really call his mom and stuff, but he felt like the boy who cried wolf, or the boy who cried rabbit. And then he sensed a presence around him. Before he could turn around, a pair of furry yellow arms locked around him in a fearsome embrace. He got his right arm free enough to jab his elbow into the yellow thing's midsection. He got loose, but the thing was blocking the exit to the pit. He couldn't get out of the pit by himself, let alone with his poor passed-out dad. Acting more than thinking, Oswald charged the rabbit with his head down. If he could just throw it off balance or knock it onto the surface, maybe he could end it. Up in, 1985 Freddy Fazbear Pizza, and buy Oswald some time with his dad to escape. He butted the yellow thing and knocked it into the ropes and the netting that surrounded the pit. It stumbled a little, righted itself, then arms outstretched, lunged towards Oswald. It pushed Oswald against the wall of the pit. Its eyes dead as always. It unhinged its jaws to reveal double rows of fangs as sharp as scimitars. Mouth opened freakishly wide. It lunged for Oswald's throat, but he blocked it with his arm. Pain pierced Oswald's form as the yellow thing sank its fangs into his skin.
Why did you hold your arm out horizontally if you're trying to block someone biting you? Hold block with your arms up straight. Like, you're like, oh, snack time! have a little munchie.
You want arm? Good.
Good.
And then the fangs pierced deeply, too deeply. What kind of crazy rabbit had fangs? The thing's jaws released a grip, but there was no time to survey the damage because the thing was lurching toward Oswald's dad, its jaws wide open, like a snake about to swallow its unsuspecting prey. Its fangs were red with Oswald's blood.
I think there's actually a type of rabbit that has, like fangs up out of its bottom jaw.
Thank you for that nightmare image. Oswald elbowed the yellow thing aside and moved between it and his still unconscious father. You leave my dad alone!
You shall not pass!
He yelled and used the netting to bounce off and clamber onto the yellow thing's back. He hit his head with his fist, scratched at its eyes, which didn't feel like a living creature's eyes. The rabbit stumbled back into the netting and the ropes and grabbed Oswald's arm and slung him hard off his shoulders into the pit. Into the pit!
KO.
Oswald fell headfirst under the surface, grateful that the bottom of the pit was soft. His arm was throbbing, his whole body was exhausted, but he had to get up. He had to save his dad, like those ancient Greek heroes Gabriel had told him about. He had to be brave and face the monster. Oswald rose unsteadily to his feet. Somehow, when it shook Oswald off, the yellow thing must have gotten tangled in the ropes and netting that lined the pit. A rope was looped around its neck. It grasped the rope with its big paws, trying to get free. Oswald couldn't understand why it was failing to free itself until he saw the yellow thing's feet weren't touching the floor of the pit. The yellow thing was suspended from the rope, which was tied securely to a metal rod at the top of the ball pit. The rabbit had hanged itself.
Oh, yeah.
Its mouth was opening and closing like it was gasping.
We don't need no strangulation. Dun, dun, dun.
Suffocation!
No breathing.
You have no last reason! But no sound came from it. Its paws clawed desperately at the ropes. Its stare, still terrifying as blankness, was aimed in Oswald's direction, as if it was asking for help. Oswald certainly wasn't going to rescue it.
Yeah, no.
After a few more seconds of struggling, the yellow thing was still.
Adios.
Oswald blinked. Hanging from the rope was nothing but a dirty, empty yellow rabbit costume.
Oh.
And his dad's eyes open. I don't understand why I'm here, Dad said. His face was pale and unshaven, his eyes puffy with dark half moon under them. What happened? Oswald debated what to say. You were attacked and left for dead by a giant evil rabbit who tried to replace you, and I was the only person who could see it wasn't you. Even Mom thought it was you. No, that sounded too crazy, and Oswald didn't relish the idea of spending years in therapy saying, but the evil rabbit was real. Jinx was the only other member of the family who knew the truth. Being a cat, she wasn't going to say anything in his defense.
What if?
So he ends up going, ahead in the ball pit to play a prank.
Bro, throw a cat into the pit.
And then you hit your head and lost consciousness. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand. This part, at least, was the truth. I accept your apology, son. But you're right. You shouldn't have done it. And Jeff really should get rid of this ball pit before he has a lawsuit on his hands.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, Oswald said. He knew he would never set foot in the pit again. He would miss Chip and Mike, but he needed to make some friends in his own time. His mind flashed to the girl on the bench at recess, Gabrielle. She seemed nice, smart too. They had a good talk. Oswald reached for his dad's hand. Let me help you stand up. With Oswald studying him, Dad rose to his feet and let his son lead him to the exit of the ball pit. He paused to look up at the hanging yellow costume. What is that thing? I have no idea, said Oswald. This, too, was the truth. They climbed out of the pit and walked through Jeff's Pizza. Jeff was wiping the counter, still watching the ball game on the restaurant's TV. He had not seen or heard anything? Still holding Oswald's hand, when was the last time he and his dad had held hands? Dad lifted his son's arm and looked at it. You're bleeding. Yeah, it must have scraped my arm when I was trying to pull you out of the pit.
What? He would be bleeding a lot, though.
I know, right? His dad shook his head. Like I said, that thing is a public safety issue. Just sticking up a sign saying keep out isn't enough.
Why didn't you just say the rabbit bit me?
Yes, the creepy yellow rabbit costume bit me.
I mean, you can see the fangs, can you not?
We'll get your arm cleaned up at the house, and then your mom can dress the wound when she gets home from work. And then Oswald says, Dad, I know it could be a pain sometimes, but I really do love you, And Dad looks at him with an expression that seemed both pleased and surprised. Same here, kiddo. He ruffled Oswald's hair. But you do have a terrible taste in science fiction movies.
Oh,
yeah? Oswald said, smiling. Well, you have a terrible taste in music. And you like boring ice cream. Together they opened the door into the fresh night air. Behind them, Jeff called, Hey kid, you forgot your soda. And that is the end of Into the Pit. So, what are your thoughts?
Strange child decides to go into Dusty Ball Pit. Is dumb. Decides to stay and chill there. Ends up bringing Death Rabbit to his family, even though he saw it in the beginning and totally thought that was apparently normal.
Totally
normal Death Rabbit thing. I think it was creepy as hell. Well, it's like, if you see that thing staring at you, you'd probably be a little uneasy, you know?
This shit on mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this shit on mountain, no way.
So, out of a 0 out of 10 rating, what would you rate the story?
6.9. Nice.
Nice. 6.9. Any reason?
It's a little frustrating how the person, how Oz acted throughout most of it. I feel like a normal human being wouldn't be like, oh yeah, me and the rabbit, we're pretty chill.
Yo, bro, you should totally join the ball pit or something.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yo, Oz, the ball pit is pretty chill. You should, like, join it or something.
Exactly.
Oh my god, and then what the hell with the Jeff? What was Jeff doing? He was just like, he's just the overworked person running the entire thing, apparently. The entire place is run down. Does anybody else go there?
Other people must have gone there because he was making pizzas and stuff.
Well, I mean, you know, he's never mentioned anybody else going there. So it's just him. And why did his father not want him to talk about the thing? So he clearly knew about what happened there. He's like, oh yeah, son, you can go to the murder pizza place. Yes, instead of moving to a different place. Yes. Which they obviously was an option. They're like, oh no, you need to stay here.
Yeah, the murder pizza place. And time traveling ball pit. A yellow rabbit who takes the place of your dad.
I swear to God.
And the only character that actually was fair enough in the story, Jinx the cat.
Yes, the cat. I was just thinking, throw the cat into the pit. ICBM. This ICBM goes back in time, baby. I'm gonna kick you so hard in the balls your grandchildren are gonna feel it. And I'm not joking this time.
It's perfect.
Allahu Akbar, bish.
So, the only relevant things that we got out of this book were the year 1985, which is the first time it's been mentioned in the entire FNAF series. So this is what people are thinking is the official date for the missing kids incident. 1985.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest of the story is very odd, because obviously time-traveling ball pit and rabbits that take the place of your dad.
Yeah.
So, we got one piece out of this.
We got something out of it.
We got something out of it.
I don't think the time traveling ball pit is very key to the FNAF universe, but I could be wrong, you know.
Who knows? We might see it in Suck Breach. I don't know. There's a ball pit in the trailer.
Oh yeah, I see. Must be the.
Any ball pit now is just a time traveling ball pit.
I want to travel to the future. I love the Back to the Future t-shirt after he went to the time traveling ball pit. If only he knew.
If only they knew.
Oh my god.
Well,
freaking chip, bro.
That was the first story of Into the Pit.
Skip-ball.
And next shall be To Be Beautiful, which is also a lovely story.
No.
So,
no more mascara.
If you enjoyed the podcast, you should give it a like and save it.
Like, man, you better like this.
Okay, if you're on YouTube, you like it and subscribe it. If you're on Spotify, you save it. Otherwise, I will put you in a time-traveling ball pit and have a rabbit. I'll have my friend dress up in as a rabbit and follow you around.
Oh, Reggie.
Yes, he'll be speaking as Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
Hey, Vsauce Michael here. How fast can you run?
Let's test that theory out. 5 kilometers per hour.
More than that.
Okay, that was great. See you later.